On episode 670 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we discuss getting outside of your comfort zone. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/670. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness, the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. Each week, we dive deep into health and fitness topics that affect those of us over 40. I'm Coach Allen. I'm an NASM certified personal trainer with specializations in corrective exercise, behavior change, performance enhancement, and fitness nutrition. A Precision Nutrition Level 1 coach, a FAI certified functional age-link specialist, and an OTA Level 2 online trainer. Each week, I'm joined by our co-host, Coach Rachel. She is an NASM certified personal trainer and a RRCA Level 1 run coach. Let us be your coaches as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Hey, Raz, how are you?
Good, Alan. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to deal with technology.
I have a love-hate relationship with it myself.
Yeah, I've started doing a new thing. I'm broadcasting on a couple different platforms like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. A thing I'm calling Coffee with Coach Allen, and so I want to basically have that be live and put those out there. But the technology that was supposed to make that easy, it confuses me. So I'm learning though. I'm learning old dogs, new tricks. So how are things up there?
Good. We had a nice weekend. We had some friends come up and visit. Our son came out to visit. It was just nice being around some people this weekend and got to run with my good friend and got a super long walk in with my son and husband. So it was just a wonderful weekend. I'm feeling pretty relaxed.
Excellent. All right. Well, are you ready to get outside your comfort zone?
Sure.
Welcome to episode 670. Today we're going to talk about comfort zone. You'll hear me say this a lot, and I'll continue to say this. And I'm going to say it again probably one or two more times on this podcast episode. But the reality is nothing great in your life ever happened inside your comfort zone. Now, that said, this is the time of year. For those in the United States, happy Thanksgiving. But we're rolling into a time of the year when comfort seems to be the norm. Comfort seems to be the thing. We get into warmer, more comfortable clothes. This is the sweats. This is the fleece. This is it's all of it. But basically, we're all getting into more comfortable clothes, cover more of our body because the temperature is going down. And so out of sight, out of mind. Additionally, a lot of the foods that we eat around this time of the year are based on that same comfort set. So we're eating more soups and stews and things like that. We're eating a lot more cakes and cookies and pies and candies. All these things that we have emotional attachment to that feel very comfortable, very nice, very safe. And so we're eating these foods. A lot of these foods are very calorie dense. So this is the time of year when most of us will begin to put on weight. Okay. Now there's a couple core reasons why we gravitate toward being comfortable. The first one is by sticking to the status quo, we feel safe. Anything else we want to do feels risky. So if we say we want to get out and go outside in the cold, our body's going to fight us a little bit to do that. It's warm and comfortable inside. Why would we go outside? And so our body is going to want to stay at the temperature it's at. It's going to want to stay comfortable. And therefore, our body's going to fight us emotionally to stay where we are. Additionally, we're dealing with what's called a psychological inertia, meaning we're in a space, there's no real internal driver unless we're the ones driving that's pushing us to be anywhere else. I promise you, if you were hungry, if you were cold, if you were missing something in your life, you would go outside and get it. You would go and do things that are uncomfortable to get those things. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, when we talk about weight loss, when we talk about getting more fit, we don't have that same drive that will push us outside of our comfort zone. And therein lies the problem. So, how do we break this status quo and what do we need to do? Well, the first thing is we do have to understand that change is hard. It is so much easier to stay where you are because your body feels safe. Now, you've probably heard me say this a few times, and if you haven't, well, you get to hear me say it again if you have, is that our body has like this internal brain. Okay, this brain can't really see what's going on around us. It just kind of knows what we tell it. And so if we want to stay inside because it's cold, we're telling our body there's something outside that's not safe. If our body starts to feel the temperature go down, it makes adjustments. But if the temperature stays cold, it begins to believe something's not right. So our body is wired to remain safe, to stay safe. And so anytime we're pushing ourselves to be uncomfortable, well, our body's going to somewhat want to fight us on that. And it's okay with, oh, well, let's kick the can down the road. It'll be warmer later. And so our body is somewhat fighting us. Our brain is somewhat fighting us. And if we're not emotionally tied to what we want to do, we're pretty much going to stay right where we are. So the more you want to stay where you are, that's when you should actually start asking questions. Okay. Now, what a lot of people will struggle with here, and because this is really hard to do for yourself, but it can be done, is to, when you realize that you don't want to do the thing that you said you would do, like go get out and go for a run, or get up and do your workout, or go cut some firewood, or anything else, look at why you're making that decision. Most of the time, when we're making a decision, we're making it on an emotional basis. Okay. We then apply logic before we even have a chance to really question that decision. We apply logic and we say this is reasonable. So I don't want to go outside because it's cold. Well, what you're saying is you don't want to be uncomfortable, even if it's for a short period of time, to accomplish the task. Being cold for you is more uncomfortable than will be solving that problem. So as you kind of look at this, think about, are you really applying logic? Is this really what you want? Is this really serving you? Or is this a short-term grasp for comfort and safety that your body's pushing? Okay. Now, many times people will then kind of go the other direction and say, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to my body. And I'm not telling you to do that either. What I'm saying is, if you feel like you're in a situation where you're making emotional decisions about doing the thing that you want to do. So a perfect example would be that I want to go for a run each day in the morning before I go to work. Now, as we get into the colder and colder seasons, it'll get colder and colder. And each day, that alarm's going to go off, and it's warm in my bed, and it's cold outside. So the real question is, when I start to make my goals, number one, is running actually the best thing for me? Running outside actually the best thing for me to do? And if it is, then number two, how do I make that easier? How do I make that where my brain won't fight me every step of the way? And unfortunately, that's a very common occurrence. So the first thing you have to do is you have to sit down and put into your head what your goals are, what your desires are, what you really want. Because if you don't want the change in the first place, you're not going to have the emotional fortitude to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's why I'll come back and say, nothing beautiful, nothing wonderful in your life has ever happened inside your comfort zone. That doesn't mean you don't stay there at points in time, but it obviously means if you spend the entire cold season of each year in that comfort zone, not doing the things that you're supposed to do, well, you're not going to accomplish much for your health and fitness. In fact, you're going to be harming yourself year in, year out, and you're not going to go where you want to go. So, what's the next thing? Well, the next thing is we got to trick ourselves sometimes. Okay. Now, the best way to trick yourself is to just get started. So, if it's warm in the house, just get dressed. Immediately, you're going to feel a little uncomfortable being fully dressed, ready to be outside while you're inside. So, that's going to be somewhat of a mental driver that I'm not dressed for inside. I should be outside. So set your clothes out the night before when you get out of bed, brush your teeth or whatever you need to do, go to the bathroom, and then put those clothes on. If you get yourself moving in that direction and you begin to feel too warm inside, it becomes a natural push for you to do something about it. So you get a little bit of momentum by starting the process. It's that first step. And I always say the first step is the hardest, and that's true. But if you've already kind of set yourself in motion, so the clothes are already ready, I don't have to go look for them. I don't have to pull them out. They're already there. I've moved other friction out of the way so that I can move into the action that I want to move into. Other things you might consider are, how can I make this easier from the perspective of, well, normally I would do this, but during this period of time, I can do that. So there's alternatives. So maybe normally I would run this particular trail, but I do know that, during this season, that trail ices over. That trail takes me away from where people would potentially be able to see me. So maybe knowing that they're going to, they're going to salt, or they're going to, go ahead and do the dozers and clear snow off of particular roads, I make those roads where I go versus going somewhere else. Or it could be the exact opposite. There could be places that are safer for you to run because there's not a lot of large equipment working at that particular time of the day. And so it's easier and better for you to just go ahead and stick to the sidewalk for this particular run. Not where you would maybe necessarily always run, but it's safer and easier, and therefore you can get it done. You may break your run into sections. So normally maybe you want to do one run, but it makes more sense for you to do a shorter run in the morning and then another run in the evening when it's a little bit more warm, a little bit more comfortable, maybe a little bit more safe. So lots of different options for you to consider to make it easier to do this. Now, the final thing I'll put out there is you don't have to do this alone, and you probably shouldn't do this alone. So if you have an accountability partner, it's a lot harder to stay in bed and not go out when you know your partner is going to be out there. So that's one. Accountability partners can be great. The other is a coach that knows you and cares, is going to be there to check on. And you say, I'm going to do my run in the morning. Well, they're going to check on you. They're going to see, did you do your run? And so whether you're meeting that coach in person or you're doing it online, you have that accountability at that level. So there's all of these opportunities for you to make this easier to be uncomfortable. But it is very important for you to get outside your comfort zone if you're wanting to change. Too often we get comfortable, we stay comfortable, we put on weight, we don't get healthier, we get weaker and we get sicker as we go through this season. And we go into January feeling crappy, and we're not in a position we should be. So this is the season to be comfortable, but I'm going to challenge you to try to make yourself uncomfortable to get the change that you truly deserve. Welcome back, Raz.
Hey, Alan. That was a really perfect discussion for this time of year, comfort zones. One of my favorite quotes is, get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's something that a lot of us runners say because it is kind of a strange sport where heart rate goes up, you start sweating, you're hot, you're freezing, you're slipping on ice, you're running in rain. There's not a lot of the run is super comfortable, but it does teach us how to persevere through the feelings of being uncomfortable. But this time of year is exactly it. Nobody wants to be outside when it's cold and rainy. We've got super dark in the morning. It's super dark in the evening when we get home from work. It's just not fun to be outdoors. But in order to continue to move that needle in your health and life or health and fitness pursuits, you got to keep moving. You got to keep at it, as uncomfortable as it might be.
Yeah, that's the biggest struggle here is to realize that, you know, we can't pick when we're going to train and when we're going to do this stuff because it just
Right.
needs to be consistent and needs to be spread across time.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not saying get out when it's a torrential rain or if it's so cold outside that it becomes like life threatening,
Dangerous. Yeah. Sure.
but from a general sense, pushing yourself just outside of your normal comfort zone
Hmm.
is where you're going to find the stuff. It's where
Hmm.
good things are going to happen for you. Because in the end, if you say, no, well, it's okay, because I mean, if it gets below 70, I'm not going outside, right?
Right.
And so, if I went with that whole mindset of I don't like the temperature to be below 70,
Hmm.
that works fine for me right here.
Hmm.
But where you are in Michigan, no.
Yeah. Yeah, that
I would
doesn't
miss
work out
nine
so
months of the
much.
year. Yeah, I'd miss
Right.
9 months of the year. It's like he's got to wait until noon until it warms up till 70, maybe. Um,
Maybe.
so, maybe. And so it's just, it's one of those things of saying, okay, being a little uncomfortable and sometimes being a
Hmm.
lot uncomfortable is okay.
Hmm.
And it really shouldn't be, staying comfortable shouldn't be your aspiration. If
Right.
you really want to change, if you really want to improve your health and fitness, um, you've got to get outside that comfort zone.
I appreciate your point on finding out what your friction points are. I mean, we all need to be self-aware to the point where, like, I do know a lot of runners who will just not run in the snow, and I totally understand it. That's their thing. So, what are your other options? What can you do instead to continue to be consistent with your health and fitness pursuits? You can get a gym membership, even if it's just for the winter months. I mean, if the daylight hours are a bummer, you can't work out when it's super dark outside. Well, what can you do if you're too tired in the morning? What can you do to find your pursuits? So I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of options. You
Often,
just need to
often,
be self-aware.
yeah. Well, the other side of it is that maybe you look at this, particularly if you live in an environment where it's going to get super super cold and lots of snow and all that,
Hmm.
is you just say, okay, I'm going to have seasons. I'm going to have seasons, and
Yes,
so during this period of time, I'm going to focus on other things related to my
for
health and
sure.
fitness, and so it's not necessarily going to be running and being outside. Maybe you start working on your strength.
Hmm.
Maybe you start really bearing down on your nutrition and
Right.
trying to make sure that you're doing that. Maybe it's okay. I'm going to sleep a little bit more.
Hmm.
Maybe it's stress management.
Sure.
So it's one of those things of saying, okay, I'm not going to just not do anything for the sake of
Right.
staying comfortable.
Hmm.
Yes, this is the time I would normally run in the morning, and now I'm just not going to do that. Um, that doesn't mean stay up an hour later and watch another couple episodes of whatever show.
Sure.
It means finding the things that you can do where you are,
Hmm.
and getting uncomfortable there.
Yep, absolutely. There are lots of options, and I do love your seasonal approach. I think that's a great option too.
Well, athletes do it all the time. They're like,
Hmm.
okay, this is my season to
Hmm.
perform. This is my season to train.
Hmm.
This is my season to recover. But they're never just completely turned off. They're never
Right.
just saying, okay, well, I'm going to find the most comfortable spot and I'm not going to move from that spot until the temperature rises above freezing again,
Hmm.
because that's not how our bodies are designed. We
Right.
just can't do that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you next week.
Great. Take care, Ellen.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.